Coming up on 5 Minute News. Iran calls Natanz atomic site blackout nuclear terrorism. Top official admits Chinese vaccines have low effectiveness. And CEOs gather to speak out against voting law changes. It's Monday, April 12th. I'm Anthony Davis. Iran on Sunday described a blackout at its underground Natanz atomic facility an act of nuclear terrorism, raising regional tensions as world powers and Tehran continue to negotiate over its tattered nuclear deal. While there was no immediate claim of responsibility, suspicion fell immediately on Israel, where its media nearly uniformly reported a devastating cyber attack orchestrated by the country causing the blackout. If Israel was responsible, it further heightens tensions between the two nations, already engaged in a shadow conflict across the wider Middle East. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who met on Sunday with US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, has vowed to do everything in his power to stop the nuclear deal. Details remained few about what happened early on Sunday morning at the facility, which was initially described as a blackout caused by the electrical grid feeding its above-ground workshops and underground enrichment halls. The IAEA, the United Nations body that monitors Tehran's atomic program, earlier said it was aware of media reports about the incident at Natanz and had spoken with Iranian officials about it. However, Natanz has been targeted by sabotage in the past. The Stuxnet computer virus, discovered in 2010 and widely believed to be a joint US-Israeli creation, once disrupted and destroyed Iranian centrifuges in Natanz amid an earlier period of Western fears about Tehran's program. Natanz suffered a mysterious explosion at its advanced centrifuge assembly plant in July that authorities later described as sabotage. In a rare admission of the weakness of Chinese coronavirus vaccines, the country's top disease control official said their effectiveness is low and the government is considering mixing them to get a boost. Chinese vaccines don't have very high protection rates, said the director of the Chinese Centers for Disease Control, Gao Fu, at a conference on Saturday in the southwestern city of Chengdu. Beijing has distributed hundreds of millions of doses abroad while trying to promote doubt about the effectiveness of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine made using the previously experimental messenger RNA process. It's now under formal consideration whether we should use different vaccines from different technical lines for the immunization process, Gao said. Another CDC official said developers are working on mRNA-based vaccines. Experts say mixing vaccines or sequential immunization might boost effectiveness. Researchers in Britain are studying a possible combination of Pfizer-BioNTech and the traditional AstraZeneca vaccine. The coronavirus pandemic, which began in central China in late 2019, marks the first time the Chinese drug industry has played a role in responding to a global health emergency. A number of top executives and corporate leaders gathered online at the weekend to discuss what to do in response to changes to some state voting laws. The Washington Post reported that more than 100 leaders, including executives from major airlines, retailers and manufacturers, plus at least one NFL owner, talked about potential ways to show they oppose the legislation, which has already been signed into law in Georgia and is being considered elsewhere. That includes halting donations to politicians who support the bills and even delaying investments in states that pass the restrictive measures. The Wall Street Journal said that Kenneth Chenault, the former chief executive of American Express, and Kenneth Frazier, CEO of Merck & Co., urged dozens of leaders to collectively call for greater voting access. Chenault and Frazier warned businesses against dropping the issue and asked CEOs to sign a statement opposing what they view as discriminatory legislation on voting. The new statement could come early this week and would build on one that 72 black executives signed last month in the wake of changes to Georgia's voting laws. While Republican lawmakers, such as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, have derided such action, many activists and others say big business hasn't gone far enough. More than 350 different voting bills are under consideration in dozens of states, according to a tally from the Brennan Center for Justice, a public policy think tank. Some executives described some bills as either racist or restrictive, and several participants described their efforts as critical to democracy rather than partisan. Last week, Mitch McConnell told business leaders to stay out of politics, unless, of course, they are making political donations to the Republican Party. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.